Welcome to Go Phish, where we explore the future of cybersecurity and learning. I'm Dan Thornton, and today we're joined by Thomas Rogers from MetaCTF. Thomas is the co-founder and chief operating officer of MetaCTF, a cybersecurity education company that helps organizations train their workforce through gamified capture the flag challenges. Thanks very much for joining us, Thomas. How's things going?
Of course, yeah, thanks for having me. Things are good. Can't complain.
Fantastic. Let's kick it off. Let's start with your journey. What led you to start MetaCTF in the cybersecurity space?
So I've been with MetaCTF for almost 5 years now. We've changed a lot in that time, but my co-founder and I met about 5 years ago. His name's Roman Bohook. He was already working on MetaCTF. It was something he had actually started contemplating back in high school, but then he incorporated in college with a team of friends, and his wife was on the original co-founder team. And they built a company where they just wanted to get hands-on security challenges in this CTF style to as many people as possible. So they were running CTF competitions for conferences at first, and then a couple companies reached out and said, "Hey, can you do that for us too?" That's really where they were when I met them. And so in the past few years, we've just been doing more and more stuff. So we've been hosting these, CTF competitions for companies, running workshops for them that are, focused around hands-on training. Recently, actually last week, we launched our On-Demand Labs product, which is a SaaS subscription product. You get access to more of our hands-on content. There's modules. We're doing a weekly challenge release. The idea is that industry professionals who want to learn more about cybersecurity and teams who want to give their teams more learning and development opportunities, they can do so now with our On-Demand Labs product. So that's exciting. I got involved because I saw how passionate and smart Roman was. He had already made some great traction, and I'm more the business person and just kind of the general, okay, what can we do next, and try and problem solve and figure it out. I see a lot of value in what we're doing. Our customers love how we help. And I think learning by doing in cybersecurity is something that's super valuable.
Yeah, 100%. Thomas, talk to me about CTF or capture the flag. Explain that to some of our listeners who don't know that concept yet and haven't seen that in action. Well, what does that look like?
Yeah, I'll do the CTF for Dummies version. It's a gamified hands-on competition where the participants or the users are given a set of questions or challenges. We call them challenges. They have to go find a flag in a given scenario. We might give them a website that is vulnerable by design that we've built ourselves and say, here's an idea about where the vulnerability is, go find it. That vulnerability is just a string of text. That's the flag. And so in doing so, a user will learn a little bit about like what that vulnerability is, how to protect against it, ideally, how to find it, in future. So there's some relevancy to a cyber professional's day job. The idea of a Jeopardy style CTF competition, which is what we generally specialize in, is that these are gamified competitions that require users to go find these strings of text flags that represent vulnerabilities and just solving cybersecurity problems in exchange for points. And then there's a scoreboard. Usually it's team based, but you can do individual based. Yeah, as teams find flags and they accumulate points, they try and win. So it's competitive. So yeah, a competitive way to learn new things and get exposed to new concepts in cyber. And meanwhile, you're working together with your team. So hopefully you're learning from them, and also cybersecurity is a pretty collaborative space. You're rarely going to be working on problems by yourself. So it's good to learn those team building and communication skills too.
Yeah, that sounds super cool. I haven't come across that before, but that's a lot of fun for the cybersecurity specialists. And it's sort of skills-based training for your specialist teams, your cybersecurity specialist teams within organizations. Do you do any sort of CTF style training for end users as well? And how does that?
We do. So on the CTF side, we've hosted competitions for everyone. We have some large organizations we work with. So we've had marketers go through it, accountants, and some of the easy challenges, we can build in like trivia style questions to these competitions, some that are more privacy related. We have some companies that are pretty cool. They'll like give us their privacy handbook and say like, hey, can you generate some questions for the CTF using this? And so that way there's pretty easy trivia type questions that anyone can answer. On the hands-on side, there's a lot of basic stuff that non-technical people can solve. And I think it's really an exercise in like building confidence and like showing them how. So we'll do a workshop before a CTF if it's opened up to non-technical people, and basically go into what we just talked about. Like, this is what a CTF is. This is how you get started. We'll go through a couple basic challenges. Like, here's a cryptography challenge where you have to like really just like use a tool or like try and decipher like what kind of encoding or encryption is this. And it's just Google searching at that point, or I mean, using LLMs too. But yeah, people approach it and are like, I can't do this. And then we'll show them some basic, this is what metadata in a photo is. It's in every digital photo. Then they see that and they're like, oh, I get it. I can actually do that. So it's kind of cool seeing the non-technical people walk away being like, wow, I know more than I realized I did, or I learned something about computers I didn't know about.
Yeah, and having that hands-on sort of involvement, and not just sitting back and listening to something, but actually getting involved, and which is a great way to learn and experience. And then you've got your team building sort of aspect to it as well, of guys getting involved with other employees, which is cool. I love it. Yeah, that's really cool.
We actually suggest usually to mix and match people when they do teams. Because if you do have marketers competing with security professionals or something, if there's a team of like 6 security professionals versus a team of 4 HR people, that's not fair. So what we often suggest is make the security people the captains of the team, and then you mix and match skill levels. So there's some cool stuff we've seen with that, but it's a good way to fraternize cross-functionally. It's not something you can do every day.
It's a great excuse to get the security guys out into the rest of the
Yeah.
population and show everyone how
Yeah,
cool and knowledgeable they are as well, which is cool. Yeah, love it.
totally. Yeah.
Tell me, since you've been in the space and you've been operating, what's the biggest shift in cybersecurity educational training that you guys have seen since you started?
Oh man, everything stuff is changing so much all the time. I think when ChatGPT got launched at the end of 2022, we were just getting so many questions like, how do you prevent people from using it, especially in the live competition? Now that we're moving to more of like self-serve training model, less of an issue, but still we do skills assessments, candidate assessments as a part of interviews. So people will use our training content as a part of that, almost like a case study. I hear all the time people being like, hey, I'm interviewing a bunch of candidates virtually. Every time I ask a question, their eyes like go to the other screen and I see them typing and they're like in ChatGPT or Claude or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So like now it's a totally how do you like assess that? And I think in general the things change, but it's still the same. It's like understanding, like, do people really have like an understanding of this stuff? And a lot of the skill in cyber is technical skill for sure, but can you communicate well? Can you write well? Can you talk about what you did and why you did it? That's an evergreen skill set. I'd say one thing that's super interesting right now, though, is for a while, there was a lot of talk about how do you hack or how do you protect AI. We've had a lot of interesting conversations lately about using AI in cyber. So that's going to be a module that we build pretty soon on our on-demand platform, like actually using AI to do stuff in cybersecurity. So that's pretty interesting. But in general, I'm sure you've seen the same thing. Everything's changing all the time. So
The,
it's
the
hard to
AI
say one thing.
the AI topic is definitely up there. And yeah, we've seen a lot of demand for companies now wanting to teach their employees about the AI threats and the
Hmm.
increased threat of AI driven social engineering and AI phishing and all of that. So it's really cool that you guys are seeing demand from the other side of security teams wanting to start using it better, using it more intelligently.
Yep.
So that's really cool. And have you guys started designing that?
We're working on it. We have a head of content. She's really awesome, and she's very busy. The challenge with our content side is you got to come up with the ideas. You got to do research. What's new? What's topical? What do people care about? What's realistic? And putting into like one of these hands-on challenges, and then actually building it is a whole other challenge. And then testing and quality assurance, all that stuff. We're building a lot of AI stuff now. People are still like asking for like prompt injection type challenges, like how do I hack an LLM? Um, which we view as like a little bit easier, but it's still we're building a lot of that stuff too. So yeah, it's in progress.
And from the research side of things, like where are you guys doing your research? How are you doing your research? What LLMs are you guys using to do that?
It's really two things. I'm sure you see this too. We do our own research, and we have an amazing group of cyber professionals who are really smart and up to date with everything that's going on. We use ChatGPT, but I think in general, reading, following the smart accounts on LinkedIn and YouTube, and like just keeping up to date with everything there. There's a lot of companies that put really good content out consistently. The other thing, or a benefit we have is enterprise customers. So companies that are trying to protect against all these crazy things and encountering all this stuff. So they're also doing their own research. And so at least half of what we build is based on conversations we have with customers. We definitely like follow their lead in a lot of ways, but we're trying to be more proactive about developing our own opinions too. It's like
Yeah, well,
growing up.
I was having the exact conversation this morning with our dev team about the roadmap and
Yeah.
us trying to regain control of it versus demand coming from customers, and
Yeah.
that back and forth battle. And we've got the same roadmap challenges with content and the demands. We've got content versus what we want to do and what we think is great. Glad to hear everyone's experiencing that. That's cool. Your labs that you were talking about, Thomas, is that a different type of training and a different type of learning experience? And how is that for employee training and skills based training?
It's an interchangeable term, two sides of the same coin. We do have a network of live virtual machines that we can provide and spin up for our customers, for our users. So if we give them a corrupt file to analyze or something, they're not going to want to download it, especially if they're on like a corporate network. They're not going to want to download that to their local machine. So we give them that so they can get around the pesky firewalls. So it is like a little bit more like hands-on in real world where you're actually giving them malicious things to review and analyze. But yeah, we provide the infrastructure for them to do that.
Okay, that's really cool. Talking about roadmap, content, demand, and that. How are you guys deciding who decides it within the team,
Yeah.
or do you do it as a team? Who's deciding what features or new content to build next? How is that being driven and being decided on?
Constant struggle, like prioritization with all that. So Roman and I are the co-founders. He leads the technical side of the house. I'm the one that's usually talking to the customers. So I'm sharing like all the feedback that we're getting, all the feature requests, and just like interesting things that we're hearing from them. We have like sort of our own roadmap that Roman typically like owns, and then we also have like the content roadmap of like what's the new modules we need to build, new topics we need to cover. Samantha, our head of content, is kind of the owner of that, but Roman and I have input too. But it's really, I mean, it's a team effort. We're like 10 people, so everyone's kind of got their hands in everything.
Tell me about the typical companies that you guys are serving, Thomas. Are you finding a specific industry is working with you guys, specific size companies? What's your sort of typical customer profile looking like that's taking on your solutions and services?
Yeah. Um, I'd say that's a challenge too, because we work with a pretty broad range of companies. So we do work with a lot of tech companies. I'd say companies who have security teams that are big enough where they need to invest in training and learning and development. That's kind of like the general summary of our customer base. Like I said, we found a lot of success with tech companies. I think mostly because they have a lot of technical people that they need to make sure are up to speed on security and expanding and growing in those ways. And then have started to work more with consulting firms, so the MSSPs, MSPs in some cases, and just doing more with them to people as their currency. They need to make sure that they are really strong and can prove that they have invested in growing and are doing more. So those are the two industries that are top of mind right now from a startup perspective is like, hey, if big company XYZ that's not in your target industry reaches out and wants help with something, what do?
Yeah, yeah.
You probably
And
do
then,
it,
and then
right? But you feel a little
yeah,
guilty.
exactly that. And then it's back to the roadmap, back to the plan, just getting
Yeah.
diverted off it the whole time as the starter. Yeah, that's cool. And I mean, it's also such a challenge from a marketing point of view. Your marketing manager comes and says, well, what does the ideal profile look like for a customer? Well, everyone needs this, but it's tough. Huh? So there's definitely a particular size organization that has got a cybersecurity team on board that needs training. So it definitely narrows it down. But yeah, I love that you guys are targeting the MSSPs as well. So we work with the MSPs as a content provider or a solutions provider. We partner with many MSSPs. So very, very cool to understand that those technical teams and those specialist teams need training and need this sort of stuff too. And that's quite cool. It's not something we've really looked at before, but that's cool to know that they're out there constantly upskilling at the same time, which is nice.
Yeah. I think the MSSP, a couple of the problems that we've heard just from leaders who are running security operations team at MSSPs are some of the most interesting stories we've heard and challenges. One that comes to mind is um, it can be hard to recruit into those groups, especially if you're looking for a security analyst, depending on, what level. But people who are leading those teams are having to invest a lot of time in development. They're building these training plans a lot of times, investing a lot of time in like taking them from level 1 to level 2 and they leave and then you got to start over. And so big value prop of ours with MSSPs is just that we can automate a lot of that. So you can just provide access to our hands-on stuff. Maybe you have to spend a few less hours a week on the hands-on training
Yeah,
manually. And those people have important jobs.
for sure. They're juggling multiple clients at volume on different systems and different
Yeah.
scenarios. So I could imagine that would be a hell of a job to be on a team like that. Thomas, tell me what's been the hardest part of growing the business so far?
Oh, it's funny because I'm sure you've seen this too, but I'd probably answer this differently like every 6 months. My new flavor, I'd say, is just how do you get more people to know who you are and what you do and what you care about? So obviously that's a marketing thing. I think we have a like pretty good brand and pretty well respected brand in the space for where we're at. There's obviously always more to do, but it's just like how do we get more people to know who we are? And so we're doing that just by like kind of keep activity high, talk about what we're doing, working in public, kind of all the classic plays, and we're doing the conference game, so that's fun. And obviously cyber conferences are huge. So I'd just say awareness is probably the biggest driver. Flowing down from that is like, how do we get more customers? How do we work with more companies? How do we prove our value? I do think the training value proposition, depending on the company you talk to, is training's training. So in good times it's there, and in tough times it's one of those things that maybe people prioritize less. So start with awareness and then trickle down to how do we find more companies to work with us?
And tell me, Thomas, who are the main sort of decision makers that you guys are dealing with your customers? Now, in the awareness training, in all employee training, whole workforce training, that can be a mix of security teams, HR teams, training teams, compliance teams. It changes depending on
Yeah.
it. But with your stuff and being very skills-based training and very specialist training for the cybersecurity teams, is it normally the CISO that is making decisions, or does it fall to HR? Does it fall to the training team to take on your services?
Yeah, you broke that down really well. We do work with the CISO sometimes, but it's often that person that's a level or two below, so maybe director, sometimes a VP. It's usually that people manager. I'd say it's two things. It's either the people manager who's overseeing a big group of people who's trying to provide that skill development, or it's the training manager. So we do work with a lot of training managers that sort of like own that for the organization. It's one of those two things. We have worked with CISOs, but The sales side, we're definitely not like targeting CISOs because they've got enough problems. We try and find people who align with what we're trying to help with.
Yeah. Understood. Last question, Thomas. Looking back, is there
Yeah.
anything that you do differently if you were starting today?
I would start much more on our brand and marketing. I lead the business side, so I do sales, marketing, and product is where Roman and I overlap the most. But I probably over-indexed on sales early on, and I mean, sales for us was really more like customer support. So there's a lot of positives because I was doing a lot of discovery and just like deeply understanding our customers and their problems and building relationships. And I've got some people who are customers of ours that are now like friends of mine that I just talk to. So that's cool. But I'd say I definitely under indexed on brand, focus less on brand and just general awareness. I think that's a part of the business that is just evergreen. If we grow to 500 people, we still are going to need more awareness. I think focusing more on that and just communicating like who we are to more people and letting people know what we care about and what we're working on. It's something we're doing more now, but I would have done that earlier.
Interesting. Yeah, it's something I talk about a lot and write about a lot. We spent so long building product and focusing on product, focusing on content. If you build it, they will come. And then you're ready to
Yeah.
go to market and no one knows who you are. And yeah, I could definitely resonate with that. Amazing, Thomas. Thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. So before we wrap up, can you let our listeners know how they can learn more about your company and or connect with you online?
Yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. We're doing most of our communication via LinkedIn. You can follow our company, MetaCTF, on LinkedIn as well. We do host monthly free to enter competitions. So our next one's May 22nd, and we do it like the third Thursday of every month. So anyone who's looking to just get exposure can just sign up for those. It's free to enter. We have free practice environments. We're doing like free trials for our on-demand labs. We have a lot of free stuff right now. So if you want to learn more about us and just cyber in general, follow us.
That's awesome, Thomas. Thanks so much for your insights. Really appreciate it. It was a good discussion. Thanks again for joining us.
Of course. Thanks, Dan.
All right, this has been Go Phish. Follow us to stay updated with insights from leaders shaping the future of learning and cybersecurity. Thanks very much, everyone. See you later.